And we're back with no music. Again, let me know what you think, guys. Just trying it out here. Give it a moment. Let's go live. I need a drink anyways. I haven't had lunch yet because our lore week ran so late. I'm like half an hour later than when I usually would eat lunch, and I have to cook it still. So that should be fun. Are we live? Did I lose everyone? I lost everyone, didn't I? Oh, yep, there's someone. There's someone. Oh, okay. So this episode, there's episodes I like. There's episodes I love. There's episodes that are interesting. And then there's episodes that are just absolute total crap garbage. Then there's episodes that are boring. And then there's episodes that aren't good, but aren't bad, but aren't great, but aren't awful. And they're not boring. And that's this episode. At least that's my opinion. It's like, well, it's there. And stuff happens. Tiny bit of world building. Very tiny. And that's about it, really. So, first of all, we start off with Fluttershy. Little squirrel walks up. Now, I just want to comment on this really quick, because as absolutely bizarre as this is going to sound, this is part of why I was totally cool with my niece watching this show when she was younger. I mean, she can watch it now if she wants to, I don't care, but you get my point, right? Kids are actually fairly impressionable, and ideas that are naturally presented, a child will usually pick up. Now, to explain what I mean by that just really quick, forgive me for going off on this, but there's ideas that are stated, and then there's ideas that are naturally presented. Now, for example, if I say, carrots are awesome, kids. You should eat carrots. Yeah, carrots. That's an idea stated. As weird as this may sound, that doesn't always stick with a kid. In fact, thanks to contrarianism, that sometimes will have the opposite effect. Carrots are awesome. Blah, I hate carrots, right? By contrast, if what I do is I show someone on like a TV show or whatever, just eating a carrot, going, it's a good batch. And that's it. Just naturally eating and enjoying carrots, a child will pay attention to that and be like, okay. And they'll start to form associations and connections and blah, blah, blah all up here, right? Now, they may eventually try carrots and not like them, but you get my point. I like to use carrots as an analogy. What do you want from me? Now, you're probably thinking, what the hell am I bringing this up for? Well, right at the beginning of the episode, there's this bit where a squirrel brings up a dandelion to Fluttershy. Now, the dandelion's completely unacceptable. So Fluttershy could have been like, no, or that's dumb, or you're dumb, or that'll never work, or just lots and lots of different ways. Instead, Fluttershy says in a very calm, nice, polite way, that's very nice, but I'm sorry, that's actually not going to work out for this one. I'm afraid we need only the best flowers for this thing. This is something I talk about all the time in real life, actually. It's how we present our information that matters just as much as what we say. Because what she said was, no. But how she said it really helped to soften the blow of that rather than being mean. Instead, she was polite and nice about it, and it's portrayed as a good thing. Again, very minor touch, but I've noticed, especially when analysis mode turned on a lot in the last decade of my life, I start to notice little tidbits like that too, because that's done deliberately. Those little things are always done very deliberately when it comes to shows like this. Those don't happen by accident. And I like and appreciate the extra effort put there. Yeah, exactly. Something kids need to be used to receiving. They need to see things like politeness being good. Weird thing to comment on, I know, but it stuck with me. So, moving forward, there's cute, and then there's sickeningly cute. You know what I mean by that? Do I need to add more to that? And what lies on where on that dynamic is going to depend on your individual opinion, of course. But really, I've noticed a lot of the times there's cute, and then there's sickeningly cute. And there's a lot of cute things in this show, but the Parasprites definitely qualify as sickeningly cute for me. I mean, come on, really ridiculously high eyes with the little, oh god, little things in the eyes and just... And someone in chat already said it. Oh, it was Savicom. No, someone else. Oh, Savicom and Lord Atlanteon both said it. Yeah, these are frickin' tribbles. They're tribbles. They are. They are straight. They're arguably worse than tribbles because they can fly, but they are tribbles. Now, what I actually like there, what I actually like about this right at the beginning, and Gremlins, you're right, is that these things, tribbles are actually portrayed as a positive thing over in Star Trek. I know that sounds weird, but they are. Even in the original episode where tribbles showed up, well, they were, they ate all the grain, they were still portrayed in an overall positive light. There were only a couple of issues with it, and it was mostly due to how much they were getting everyone. It's like, okay, we need to deal with this, and then they did, and then they were done with it. Here, the tribbles are actually portrayed as a legitimate problem, like a large-scale crisis, and they should be. No, really. And I actually like that. I like the fact that they portrayed the tribble concept as something that is a huge environmental level threat, because it is. Something that eats and reproduces that rapidly is nuts. And of course, the end, right? And I do like how the episode makes it very clear right out the bat that these are a bad thing. Go ahead and eat. Okay. Eats the entire bushel of apples. And even though it's portrayed kind of cartoonishly, the episode then zooms in on the barrel like, uh-oh. And there's even a dun-dun-dun kind of a musical note, right? They do, actually, Shikor. Which, speaking of which, these things reproduce by vomiting. We'll get back to that. So, I've actually spoken pretty positively about the episode so far. That's about the last positive thing I have to say about this episode. I don't like this episode. First thing we see is Twilight being a dick to Spike. Not the first time, not the last time. And every time I see it, it just kind of... Really? He's running around trying to clean up her mess. He gives constructive advice on how she could make this situation not be worse going forward. And all she can do is dust. She's not actually cleaning anything. She's just dust. And when he suggests maybe they could, work on this in a different way, she leaves and lets him just clean by himself. I don't think she's mean on purpose, but every time I see that, it just makes me go, yeah, anywho. Oh, God, you're right, Shadow Machine. I'm not sure that's a good thing, though. So, meanwhile, Pinky is also being rude. What is with this episode? Hi, Peculiar Doobie. No, seriously for a second. Pinkie Pie is eating all of the food for a banquet that she probably helped bake, and she knows is not for her. She then makes a lie excuse that, she's just taste testing it, and then she eats an entire cake. Isn't that funny? No, that's not funny. That's actually rude, and that's the kind of thing I don't like seeing in shows aimed at kids. Because that's just straight up being unkind at that point, in addition to being rude. Then, Fluttershy rushes in. Credit to the little details. I've actually been there before. I'm sure some of you have too. You ever been really excited about something and you rush to go tell someone about it and they're in the middle of something, so you're like, okay. Oh, wait. The way they portrayed that was really good. It was a really neat. It's like a second, but she rushes in. Oh, you're busy. And she actually demurs and lowers her head and everything. It's just a really nice little adorable moment. There's a lot of good little moments in this show. It's part of what made me stick with it. It's like, okay, listen, there's this amazing thing, and it's a Parasprite. And this leads to, I think we're up to the 15,000th. I'm exaggerating. This is up to the 5th or so major problem with this episode. Pinky understands what it is immediately, recognizes it immediately. And this leads to the problem of the episode. Because, on the one hand, they make no effort to listen to Pinkie Pie, which becomes more of a problem later than early on. But on the other hand, Pinkie Pie makes no real good effort to communicate herself. Oh my gosh, you guys, those are parasprites. We need to deal with those as quickly as possible. Don't worry, I know a remedy. Come help me out. Even Pinkie could say that, but no. Well, that's up to you, Electric Pig. Depends on how, what you have access to. Like, it's on Amazon and I think Netflix at the moment. I think it's a good show, but like any show, it has its good and its bad. It is a strong... the show has a good emphasis on continuity. And there's a lot of good attention to detail and general quality. Like good quality little moments, like I've been mentioning with regards to this episode. If that's your kind of thing, then go for it. Okay, season 1 through 8 on Netflix. There you go. But yeah, Pinkie makes no effort to really explain herself. And there's a problem with that. Now, the first time it happens, okay, sure, but she never tries to explain herself properly. Not once. She just talks as if everyone knows what she's talking about. This is why I call this the problem of the episode. The problem of the episode is Command & Conquer 2. Now, he's awesome, but he's not in this episode, and that's a problem. Thank you very much for the bits, sir. Much obliged. And you know the question. But yeah, she acts as if it's plainly obvious, and they act as if she's just crazy or insane. And that's the problem. Now, I can kind of forgive some of this, because Pinkie is kooky, and because they aren't friends yet. I know I keep hammering this point, but I'm going to keep hammering it as long as it keeps being relevant. Later on, she will mention things like this, and they will pay attention to her. They will listen to her because they're friends. Here, they're all just like, whatever. There's a scene, it's later on, where Rarity literally rolls her eyes, actually does the eye roll as she's walking away from Pinkie. That's how they're treating her at this point in the story. Anyways. This then leads to... I'm sorry, I know this is a weird thing to pause and comment on, but did you see the hat they put on Rainbow Dash? Oh god, that looks terrible on her. Anyways, all right, moving on. Halo, which one? Command & Conquer. Just this tall, giant, Victorian, ugly thing. Whatever. So Pinkie doesn't explain herself. They go to the hat. They escalate to the point of literally ignoring Pinkie in this scene, where Pinkie rushes in and says, hey, and they're all so caught up in, oh, it's so adorable, that they literally ignore her. Okay, so we're escalating already. Halo 1, you got it. Command & Conquer 2, Halo 1, you got it. Thank you again, sir. So, this then cuts to... They wake up in the morning and there's parasprites everywhere. This is also when we get the implication, which is later confirmed, that the more they eat, the more they reproduce. Logical. So, Spike gave them a snack in the middle of the night. Gremlins reference. And now there's all sorts of them. And now they start to acknowledge, oh gosh, this is a problem. This is also the first scene in which the parasprites go from being just cute to actually being mischievous, as they're running around making a mess of her place. Also a Gremlins reference, by the way. I kind of agree, Savicom. So Savicom says that it's a little out of character for Fluttershy to ignore this. And she says there might be some telepathic stuff going on. So I made the Tribbles comparison very deliberately, not just because of the surface details, but because of the complex ones. For those of you who know where Tribbles, they emit a sound, which I'm terrible at replicating, which is literally designed to trigger a certain reaction in most humanoids. Even Spock was not immune to that, the half-Vulcan. In other words, it literally has a defense mechanism that makes people go, "Aww," right? In other words, the idea here... that's when it sees a Klingon. The idea here is that the parasprites might actually have something literally more magical or telepathic or whatever going on, which also leads them to influence people. Because Until they start causing mischief, they're all down for it, which I'll get to in just a second as well. So then Rainbow wakes up. Oh god, they're everywhere. Also, this leads to Spike helping out and Twilight using her duster and not helping and telling Spike to stop fooling around. Damn it, Twilight. I'm sorry. Like I said, every time she's irritating to Spike, it just makes me go. Anyways. So this then leads to an interesting scene where Rarity is actually using them in her shop. And she's totally cool with how many there are. Right up until they reproduce. Now, this is where I mentioned that their method of procreation is they vomit up a goop pile, which then reforms into a new parasprite. Now, this is a fantastical setting with magic. So we can accept a lot of things when it comes to this. And I'm not going to try and pull out the specifics of, conservation of mass or physical presentation of dimensional areas or whatever. Let's not get into that. I'm with the general idea. What I want to wonder is, what does it take to create a species that throws up its young? And of course, this is naturally the exact point at which Rarity stops being okay with the parasprites. And, yeah, no longer cute. I agree. There's even this really good point. It's actually later in the episode where one of them is thrown up and it comes out, and it's all, I can't do it. And it's like, I'm a vomit pile, and now I'm cute. And it's just like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is kind of how evolution works, isn't it? Not the vomiting up part. You need to develop a trait which is reinforced over generations, which makes it so that you are more likely to continue to exist and reproduce. And cuteness has actually been proven to be an evolutionary niche with regards to certain animals and indeed people. So, anyways. So the vomit procreation. This then leads to the scene I actually referenced earlier. Pinky straight up asks Rarity for help. With the two of us working together, we can go and try and figure out what's going on and fix it. Rarity then completely ignores her and refuses her help, and this is when she literally rolls her eyes at her. This is the point at which the communication wall coming between the two starts to really irritate me. Because this is no longer just random, the random lack of communication. This is reaching the point now where these people are just actively running into a wall of, no, we need the conflict wall for right now. I know I'm probably sounding unkind, and I can just hear someone saying, Lore, you're demanding too much of a kid's TV show, but you know my thoughts on that one. No, at this point, this is when the writing starts to break down and become a lot more badly written. Which leads me to my next point. So they go to Fluttershy's house. There's tons and tons of them. Fluttershy says she tried begging and pleading and beseeching and asking politely. Okay, I'm sorry. We have already seen as of this point in time that Fluttershy not only knows how to do things other than be a doormat with regards to animals, but we have also seen that Fluttershy is not stupid. She's not. That's already been established, and it will certainly be true going forward from here. And yeah, kids are not dumb. I agree. Kids TV needs to have standards of quality too. I stand by that statement firmly. Anyways. So, they start rounding them up. Now, this is where the bad writing starts to come in. Not the roundup. That makes a degree of sense. They round them all up, they get them into a ball, and they throw it into the Everfree Forest. Now, first of all, that's a pretty band-aid solution. It doesn't actually get rid of the problem, it just moves it over there. I mean, that's probably the first problem, that they should probably think of that. But at the same time, at the very least, there could have been some acknowledgement that, okay, now we can start to deal with this. However, then, Fluttershy kept one, and now there's billions of them. Wah, wah. All right, so this then leads to them doing the whirlwind technique, which actually seems to work pretty well, until she bumps into Pinky and gets the symbols. You can already start to see this. In many ways, this is the Star Trek problem, because Star Trek does this all the time. The off chance you don't know what I'm talking about, allow me to elucidate. Let's say I'm the captain of the Enterprise. Here we go. Hang on. Oh my god! The Yoshis are attacking! Sir, what do we do? Okay, first we're going to try to bounce the main graviton beam off the main deflector dish. And in so doing, we'll defeat the Yoshis. And so we do it. Bounce! The Yoshis are defeated. But wait, here's another Yoshi. What do we do? Okay, we're going to use the carrot beam in order to try and repolarize the transporters. Oh no, there's a third Yoshi. Okay, this time we're going to try dancing a jig while singing. Okay, I'm making stuff up, but you get my point. No, of course you don't, because I'm a terrible explainer. They swallowed the ship. No. You can never reuse a solution in Star Trek. There are rare exceptions where you get to reuse a solution in Star Trek. They always try something new. It's kind of a narrative rule of bad writing. It's actually a sort of approach towards anti-continuity. And the reason this writing trope exists is because the writers don't want to repeat themselves. And that makes sense. The problem is the writers will then come up with the exact same problem, often in the same episode. And because they refuse to repeat themselves, even though the previous solution was proven to work, they'll never use it again. This gets much worse when you look from episode to episode, but that's a separate problem. So in this episode, getting back to MLP for a second, first they try the rodeo. It works, but there's another one. So okay, now we'll try the whirlwind. That works. But the symbols. So now we got to try something else entirely. We can't retry an effort. What the hell is wrong with you? Even though both previous efforts did actually work. And that's the problem. They made a point of showcasing how both the rodeo rounding up and the whirlwind effort both actually worked. Now you're probably thinking, Lore, how do you fix this then? Well, you make them not work. You show that the rodeo thing didn't work, which makes perfect sense because it shouldn't. It's actually a dumb idea. You show that the whirlwind idea just spreads them out rather than gets them into one spot. Bam! Now both solutions don't work, and now trying out something else makes more sense. Then they go to attack the town. You remember that swarm of bunnies a few episodes ago? Which is apparently a real thing, I have been informed. Yeah, this is worse. This is bad. Like, tribbles getting loose in a town is pretty bad. Flying tribbles, yeah, this is horrible. And again, credit to the episode, it does treat this as an actual disaster. This is then when, look at my notes here real quick. Just want to make sure I get everything in right. This is when they try the eating solution. Yeah. Yeah, it's all this. Exactly. It's the Tyranids in pretty form. So, as weird as this is going to sound, this is the one solution I'm completely down for. Twilight was panicking. She knows magic. She came up with something in the moment which didn't think long term. I'm actually completely with that because that makes perfect sense to me. It's like, here. Okay, they're not going to eat the food. Oh, they're eating every... Because she wasn't thinking it through. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm with that. That actually makes a degree of sense for it. This then leads to her grabbing one Parasprite and running it off to Zecora. Now, if you're paying attention, only two people in the entire episode know what Parasprites are. Zecora and Pinky. Somehow that kind of works for me. I like to think that over on the Pinky farm, the Pie farm, actually, excuse me, that Parasprites are something they've had to deal with every now and again, and that's why they know about them. And of course, Zecora, who is from a long ways away, you can kind of see a degree of logic there in why these two people would know what's going on. But yeah, Zecora just says, oh no, you're doomed. You're screwed. Have fun. Quick rewind, though. During the rodeo, Pinky rushes in and is like, hey, I need your help. And then they say, they just ignore her. And she comes back, she's like, no, listen, I need your help. And this is when they just roll their eyes at her. This is when it starts to irritate me even more. Granted, Pinky does need to learn how to communicate. We already said that. But by this point in the story, Pinky is flat out saying, please help me on this matter. And they're just straight up saying no. So the blame meter is kind of leaning towards the other 5. Then we go to the symbols thing. The symbols thing is an interesting one because that's when they all come down and just actually straight up yell at her. You have screwed up all our efforts. And she's like, what? Then she doesn't know how to communicate because she doesn't actually say properly what she's trying to say. And I do want to point out that that's a good moment. She literally does not know how to communicate that they have been the problem, not her. And they keep getting in her way. So instead, she tries to work her way through the English narrative of it, and she can't actually figure it out. And they just roll their eyes and walk away because she's just crazy, yo. Again, not friends yet. So Zecora says they're doomed. And this is also, by the way, the first time we see Twilight actually snap. We'll see that in the future. But yeah, this is the first time she actually kind of goes, okay, no problem. We'll just build an entire fake town for when the princess shows up. And then we've got about 15 seconds, guys. Also, hi, Kevin. Also, a nice reference to Blazing Saddles. Did you catch that? Yeah, Twilight's pretty bad in this episode. I agree. So this then leads to them like, oh my God, princess, it's okay. I have this infestation in Philadelphia. I decided to look this up. I give myself a few extra minutes for people to be able to watch the episode in case they're not watching it, second to second like I am. To my knowledge, Philadelphia never shows on camera. It's in the comics. They go to Philadelphia in the comics, but they never go there in the show. Tons of references to it. Plenty of people from it never actually go there. Which is interesting because they go to Manhattan several times. Just interesting to think about. Anywho, moving on. So Celestia, naturally Celestia being a 1,000-year-old elder deity super mega pony, would have no idea what a parasprite is. However, I wrote down that note, and then I have to admit, I could kind of see that, because as we've discussed before, Celestia's not a great ruler. I could see this being a situation where she'd usually just kind of let someone else handle it. So, message of the episode. You should listen to your friends, blah, blah, blah. I do have to say something, though. This is not a great message. I mean, it's most of the message episodes I've been okay with, to some extent or another. Like the last one, even though it was really on the nose, it's still a decent message. This message is... I mean, the solution to the parasprites is you need to get together a brass polka band and lead them off, Pied Piper way. Like, what? It's hard to take it seriously when the answer is so ridiculous. Even if Pinky had said, guys, I need to get a polka band together to defeat the parasprites, then I would imagine the response would be, huh? And so I think the episode is a little bit hindered by that. Because, I mean... I do have to mention, though, that while Celestia shows up, Pinky is still... She has an irritated expression on her face, first of all. But second of all, she's still single-handedly saving the town and everything, while they're rushing off to greet Celestia. Yeah, it's a nice metaphor for the whole episode, I think, right there. I do agree, though. It's not just the listen to your friends thing. Communication, proper communication is... Yeah, that's a good thing. It's something that you need to learn. It's something that's hard to do. And it's something that takes time and effort, but you should make the effort to do. So I'm with that. Then the episode ends on a literal wah-wah. So that's one for the wah-wah counter. Let me jot that down. Just get that there. There we go. Now, we had brought this up earlier, and I actually agree. I kind of want to keep a Ponyville damaged counter as we go. Because, by memory, Ponyville gets trashed a lot. And I'm actually curious if it's going to be like the shuttles on Voyager, you know what I mean? Like, hey, it's another episode. So this is our first Ponyville is damaged. counter. We'll just kind of jot that one down there and leave it there. And overall, a pretty forgettable episode. Not super great. Although I do have to mention one thing as a quick aside. I have a feeling this whole situation would actually be even worse if not for the fact that she did the spell that made them stop eating food. I know you're probably thinking, what? Why? Well, I mean, winter is literally the next episode. I mean, you kind of figure, losing a large chunk of crops would be kind of a bad thing. That may literally be true, Sean. I don't know. I don't actually know Faust's preferences. I know that she didn't like most typical kid-oriented shows when she was a kid. So it's entirely possible she was into stuff like TOS. Hello, Coffee Powered. Is that a chicken? What is that? Anyways. I agree, Savicom. And I agree. I do feel Pinky. I've heard a few people mention that they're curious of me dissecting Pinky, and I don't think this is a good episode to do that, but this is a good episode to start because Pinkie Pie is actually a surprisingly complex character, and there's actually a decent amount of layers and complexity to her. And hang on, that's distracting. Oh God, there we go. She's actually a pretty interesting and detailed character when they bother to do so, which is the problem. Most of the time, they don't actually bother to do anything with her. But here we do see someone who, again, literally has problem actually communicating what she's trying to say. Best exemplified by the scene where they all blame her, and she's like, "What? I've been trying to do all this. I've been trying to save everyone. What have you been doing?" And of course, they're like, that's not what she says because she doesn't know how to communicate. I have not heard of that theory, no, is Destroyer. I'm not sure what to make of that. Is that IS Destroyer? Like, is an Imperial Star Destroyer? Because that'd be really cool. Anyways, I don't think I'd buy that one. We do see Pinky as a kid. In fact, we're seeing her as a kid in just a few episodes, I think. Yeah, where's the list? So we've got, what's next? Winter Wrap-Up. And then we got Call of the Cutie, which will be the first actual Apple Bloom episode. Fall Weather Friends, that's the race episode. Suited for Success, that's a good one. And then Feeling Pinky Keen, that's all right. And then Sonic Rainboom, that's what I'm thinking. So it's episode 16 is when we'll see them as kids and start to get a little more into that. And then we'll see the Showstoppers, which I don't care for. Oh my God, hang on, 3? Is it just 3? No, it's 4. Hang on. 4 of the episodes of this are about the Cutie Mark Crusaders. That's actually interesting. I never really realized that. We'll talk about the Cutie Mark Crusaders thing later because, well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it because they show up a lot, and I think that's the problem, just to be honest about it right now. Like, we're not there yet, but I do like the overall Cutie Mark Crusader thing. What I don't like is how they tend to hit the same story beat a little bit too often. Like, when's the episode when they finally get their Cutie Mark? Spoiler alert. Like, it's season 5 or 6 or something, isn't it? It's way in the future. Okay, so it is season 5. 5 years. That's my only complaint with the Cutie Mark Crusaders. They hit that same beat a little bit too often. That being said, by the way, the episode where they do get their Cutie Marks, that's actually among my favorite episodes in this show. It's a good damn episode. Excuse my language, but yeah. Anyways, I think that's it. Suddenly music. No, I'm kidding. So let's go ahead and chop off the local recording.